Filing taxes for your business can feel, like you're trying to solve a puzzle in the dark. Today, we're going to flip the lights on for one key piece of that puzzle: IRS information returns. We're going to translate the official government speak into a clear, simple guide so you're totally ready for the 2025 tax season. So, if you run a business of any size, I'm willing to bet you've paid a contractor, a consultant, or a freelancer for their work. But did you know that the moment that payment crosses a certain line, a little alarm bell goes off and you suddenly have a reporting job to do for the IRS? Let's talk about the forms that make that all happen.
Yep, we're talking about information returns. And to make sure you're getting the absolute best information, we're going straight to the horse's mouth. We're using the official IRS general instructions to guide us through this. No guessing games here.
We've broken this down into 4 really straightforward parts. First, we'll cover the absolute basics. Then, and this is a big one, we'll hit the critical updates for this year. After that, we'll walk through the filing process itself. And finally, we'll cover what to do if you make a mistake, because hey, it happens. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's dive right in and start with the most basic question of all. What in the world is an information return? The main thing to get your head around is that this is not a tax bill. It's more like a report card. You're simply telling the IRS, hey, just so you know, I paid this person this much money. It's all about connecting the dots so the IRS can see the payment you made matches the income that person reports. Now, these information returns come in a few different flavors depending on what you're paying for. Most of us are going to be dealing with the 1099 NEC. That's your classic form for freelancers and contractors. But as you can see, there are other ones too, for things like rent, interest, or even mortgage interest you might have received. Now, here's a kind of weird situation you might run into. Let's say you get a payment, but that money isn't actually for you. You're just the middleman passing it along to other people. Well, the IRS has a name for that. You're a nominee. You'll get the main 1099, but then it's your job to file your own 1099s to show the IRS where that money really ended up.
All right, let's get to the big stuff. There is a massive change this year that's going to affect how pretty much everyone files these forms.
So if you're one of those people who's been faithfully printing out your forms and mailing them in every year because you only had a few, you need to listen up. The old way of doing things has changed, and it's a big one. It used to be that you only had to file electronically if you were sending in 250 or more returns. Well, let's just say that number has gone on a serious diet. That's it, 10. If you are filing 10 or more information returns in total, you are now required by law to file them electronically. This is a huge shift from 250 down to just 10. So how do they get to 10? Well, the IRS adds everything up. It's not 10 of one type of form, it's the whole shebang. All your 1099s, your 1098s, even any corrections you file, they all go into one big pot. So 5 payments to contractors and 5 interest payments puts you at the threshold, and you've got to e-file. Okay, so now that we know the rules, especially that huge e-filing update, let's get practical. Let's walk through what you actually have to do.
You know, deadlines are everything with the IRS. And notice that 1099 NEC for contractors? It has the earliest, tightest deadline of them all, February 2nd. That's for getting it to both the contractor and the IRS. Now, if you e-file, you do get a little bit more breathing room for most other forms, with a March 31st deadline. You really don't want to miss these dates, so mark them in your calendar now.
So here are the 2 paths. For the very few people who can still file on paper, that's fewer than 10 forms, you need special scannable forms and a summary sheet called a 1096. For basically everyone else, you're e-filing. The good news? The IRS has a free online portal called Iris that makes this way easier. And you don't even have to worry about that Form 1096. No, it doesn't matter if you file by paper or electronically. Getting this next part right is, well, it's everything. The Taxpayer Identification Number, or TIN. This is the absolute linchpin of the whole system. A wrong TIN is probably the #1 most common and most easily avoidable mistake you can make. So, how do you guarantee you have the right TIN? Easy. One little form, the W-9. Here's the rule you should live by. No signed W-9, no payment. Period. Have every single contractor fill one out before you pay them a dime. It gives you their official legal name and their TIN, signed and certified. Keep that W-9 on file. It's your absolute best defense against problems later on. But, okay, what if you do make a mistake? Look, it happens to everyone. The important thing is knowing how to fix it the right way. So let's look at the official IRS process for corrections. The IRS is really clear here.
Don't wait around. Fix it and fix it fast. Luckily, they have a very specific process, but you gotta know that the steps are different depending on what kind of mistake you made.
So, if you just messed up a dollar amount, what the IRS calls a Type 1 error, the fix is pretty straightforward. You grab a new form, check that little corrected box at the top, put in the right amount of money, and send it in. It's a simple one-form fix.
But if you messed up something major, like a wrong name or a bad TIN, a Type 2 error, the process is a little more like a dance. It's 2 steps. First, you have to file a corrected form with all the wrong info, but you put $0 in the money boxes. That voids the original. Then, you file a totally fresh, brand new form with all the right information. You have to do both steps to get it fixed in their system.
So, what happens if you just can't get that correct TIN? Maybe someone refuses to give you a W-9. This is where things get serious. It triggers something called backup withholding, and it means you are legally required to start withholding taxes from their payments and sending that money straight to the IRS yourself. And we're not talking about a small amount. The current backup withholding rate is a steep 24%. This is a massive headache you absolutely want to avoid, and it all comes back to that one simple thing: getting a completed Form W-9 before you ever make a payment.
Look, this new 10 return threshold is here to stay. It's the IRS's big push to get everyone into a modern digital system. And the single most important thing you can do to get ready is to make it your policy right now to get a signed W-9 from every single vendor you pay. It'll make your filing season 1,000 times smoother and save you from a world of hurt down the road. Thanks for joining me.